Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Beck's Backyard Barbecue. Today we've got the Oklahoma Joe fired up. We're doing a smaller cook here and we are going back to beef. So today's cut of meat that we're going to be working with is a beef chuck roast. Now some of you may ask why we are smoking a beef chuck roast. Well, here's the deal. I love brisket. I know a lot of you out there love the taste of beef brisket as well. It's a staple of barbecue. The thing with brisket is when you buy a brisket, you've got a 15, 16 pound piece of meat. And it can be a lot of time to cook it. It can be a lot of meat and leftovers to handle. Some people like freezing it, rewarming it, having leftover brisket. Some people don't. And so beef chuck roast, when it's done correctly, if you cook it like a brisket, treat it like a brisket, you can mimic the taste and flavor and texture of brisket in a much smaller cut of meat, to where you don't have 8 pounds of brisket left over tying up the refrigerator and you're wondering what you're going to do with it. So today we have about a 3.5 pound beef chuck roast here, and come along with us. We're going to take you through how we prepare this to have that smaller version of a beef brisket. So if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure to turn on your notifications to stay up to date with our latest content. And here we go. So the beef chuck roast comes from the front shoulder of the animal, not too far away from the location of the brisket. You can see we have long striations or fibers of meat. The one thing that you don't have on a chuck roast, depending on how it's cut, is you might not have as much of a fat cap as you do on a brisket. This is the top side of the meat. This is the bottom side. And the one thing I wanted to show you, when you get a chuck roast, this muscle will have a layer of silver skin laid on the backside. Now this one here, I've pre-trimmed it to save some time in the video, but you'll have this layer of silver skin over this backside. And this is something that you're gonna wanna trim off. Just trim it off very thinly. Don't get into your meat too much, but it makes it tough, it makes it chewy. It's not very, very fun to eat. So how we're gonna season this up is, got a dry rub here, salt, pepper, garlic, and onion. That's how personally I like to do my beef, is just salt, pepper, garlic, and onion. I like to let the flavor of the beef speak for itself and come out in the meat. One thing, like we said, you don't have as much of a fat cap on a chuck roast. So typically I try to find a higher grade of beef when purchasing a chuck roast. That way I can still get those nice flavors, natural flavors from that fat within the meat, and keep it nice and juicy. So here we go, we have it seasoned up, and again, we're going to treat this just like a mini brisket cook. So we're going to season it up, we're going to throw it in the pit. We're going to run the pit about 225 or 250 degrees. So our pit is currently right about 220 degrees, so we'll bring that up a little bit more. Again, we're cooking on an Oklahoma Joe offset stick burner today. We're going to put our brisket in there and we'll let this cook. Hey everybody, we're about 3.5 hours in on our beef chuck roast cook here. We've reached an internal temp of 135 degrees. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to open this up, take a look and see what we have. And probably wrap. Alright, so we pulled our chuck roast out again. We've hit an internal temp of about 135. I am going to go ahead and wrap this. You can see we're getting a nice color to it. Typically on a brisket, I will let it go to 175 to 180 before I wrap it. The reason I'm going a little prematurely on this chuck roast is, like we said earlier, we don't have a fat cap on here like we do with a beef brisket. So I have a blend here. It's just butter, 100% cream butter, as always, and apple cider vinegar to bring some fats back into this, bring some flavor. The apple cider vinegar is obviously going to bring us some moisture into the mix, and the vinegar also acts as a meat tenderizer. So again, that's why I'm wrapping this up early. Typically I'd let it go a little bit longer, but I like our color where our color is sitting, so I want to stop that from getting any darker, and I want to retain the moisture. And back in the smoker we go. Now we will run this until we get to a final internal temp of approximately 195, and then we will pull it out. We will let it rest. We want it to finish up somewhere right around 200 degrees. So stay tuned here. We're going to close this up and let it cook. Well, everybody, we are now going into about hour 7 of this cook, and we have hit our target internal temp of 195 degrees like we wanted to do. So we're going to open this thing up now, and we're going to see what we have. So here we go. Final reveal on our smoked chuck roast. Look at that steam. Look at those juices down inside of there. That is going to be a good piece of meat. So again, if you're looking for a brisket type meat, the process is the same way we do as with brisket, just a little bit shorter cook time. I encourage you to check out chuck roast. It's a smaller cut of meat, that way it's easier to feed less people. And again, please take the time to hit the like button, drop us some comments. We love hearing from everybody, and feel free to subscribe. Have a good day.